struggling to balance your creative flow with a structured schedule? Are digital distractions constantly hijacking your focus? Looking to master time management and efficiently meet critical deadlines? In this episode, we're joined by Olivia Chylinski, an accomplished interior architect in Australia and the owner of the brown paper movement. Olivia will share her insights, including time management strategies, as she tackles these questions and more. Get ready for a wealth of knowledge from a true expert in the field. Hello, Olivia. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Claudia. It's very nice to be here.
Your journey in interior architecture and the brown paper movement is really truly inspiring for me. And today I'm very excited, and we are very excited to hear your insights on balancing creativity and also a time.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. So can't wait.
Maybe let's go straight to first question. Many artists struggle with finding a balance between creative work and also scheduling. Could you tell us how do you strike that balance in your work?
Mm-hmm. Between working and the business. So I'm an interior architect full-time. I work Monday to Friday in that job. And then the brown paper movement is I always say my after 5 job. Every hour after that is what that business originally was when I was starting it up. Today, that balance looks a lot like what feels right at the time. How did my work day go? Because I start with that, of course, and then how does my afternoon go when I come home from work? And I think that comes down to how you look after yourself and how you feel when you wake up in the morning. And for me, that right balance between the two businesses, between my work and my business, is to always start on the right point. So I always start every morning. I actually started during COVID, where I started to do yoga every morning for 15 minutes, only 15 minutes.
Okay.
And that has just really revolutionized my mornings. I cannot miss it now. So, that is one of the things that I think, and it's only 15 minutes. It's really powerful what some breath work and some stretching can do to help you really achieve calm and balance in the day. So that happens in the morning. And then after work, I think coming home on public transport really sort of slows me down into the evening if it's down to personal time or if it's time to work on the business. I think having that help, both of those things helps me create a divide between one and the other.
Mm-hmm. Do you use maybe any time management tools to plan all the private life and your work time and the brown paper movement time?
As well. I think for me, I'm such a planner. My partner is really not a planner at all. And my friends and family and work as well, they say, Olivia, you are so organized. It's really crazy. How do you do it all? How do you fit everything in? And I think it's because I squeeze every minute from the day possible, So I think I have lots of tools. I have my notebook, which I've got. This is my really messy one, but I've got my notebook and it's got every thought in there. I also, we live in a digital age, so I have my Google Calendar. I put everything in there from my Pilates to dinners to work. I actually put after work events and lunch catch-ups in my private calendar that might be in my work calendar. So then I really know what's happening for the day ahead, and I can really understand and how to mentally prepare myself for the day. Even if it's just a coffee catch-up, then I know I'm coming into work that day thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have a break at this point. Let's try to focus in this part of the day. So yeah, for me, it's planning out on my Google Calendar, on my physical calendar as well. This is just a sample, but this is on my physical calendar as well. I try to plan everything out on there, and I like to see the tasks in multiple locations. So I sometimes put it on the paper calendar, and I sometimes have it
Mm-hmm.
in the Google Calendar. But the Google Calendar
Mm-hmm.
has everything because it has my partner's things and my things. So
Mm-hmm.
they are my tips, and also reminders. I cannot live without my reminders on my phone. Crazy.
Were you always like that, or
I'm
the brown paper movement helped you to become this very
a bit
um, uh, like
a planner.
how what
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
planner, yeah,
yeah.
exactly, that's the perfect word, yeah.
I mean, I think for me, yeah, I think I've always been like that. I felt that, as soon as I started, I think it's when I started working actually. After university,
Mm-hmm.
when you're in university, you've got to plan out all your tasks anyway to meet all your assignments and your exams. So it probably started in those early days. But I think even when now you have me thinking, when I was in high school, I used to color code my calendar at each class. So I would see everything in the right color pattern. And I was a very visual person from the beginning. So I think for me, it did start then. And then as I got more busier and I just got more excited with life, I've discovered Pilates, or discovered classes like dance classes after work. And if you want to fit all of these things in, you have to be organized in some way. And you have to also block time out for yourself. I didn't learn to block time out for myself until quite later in life, when I, experienced a lot of burnout with work or with the business. I just wanted to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to really say no to a lot of private events,
Yeah.
and seeing friends, even if it was just a coffee. I had to really be very strong and say, look, I'm busy. And I just never explained why. And really, I was just busy because it's good to be busy for yourself, and good to just block out a few hours or a whole day to just say, oh, I have plans. And no one has to know if it's plans for someone else or plans for you. And I think that's really critical. Yeah.
I know that you were living in Denmark for a while, and I know myself that Danish culture is um, very focused on planning also. Did
Yeah.
it also help you living there to
To be a better
make all
planner.
the schedule work, or did it actually inspire you to grow your business better?
Yeah, I mean, it actually made me. So for everyone who has never lived in Denmark listening, which is a
Yes,
small
maybe we
country,
should
so
explain that.
I'm sure it's a lot of people who don't know what we're going on about. But actually, in Denmark, the Danes are very prompt. So they will not really be late for a social gathering or a dentist doctor appointment. If you're late by more than 5 minutes, your appointment is cancelled. And that is a shock. Like, it was a shock for me to come into a society like that. But what I learned from that is that you have to respect people's time a lot more than what I thought. I was already respecting people's time. So by turning up on time to places and making sure that I was prompt, shows a level of respect from one to the other. And 5 minutes longer, and then you are beginning to actually waste people's time. And I never used to think that was a worry, coming from Australia or having European friends that are very laid back. So yeah, I really had to. I still remember that to this day, and in my work, in my day to day, and I have meetings. I try to really be on time and tell people, look, it's good to be on time. So
Especially that we have all these available tools to be on time
yes,
nowadays.
exactly, and
And
reminders and all of that. And
mhm.
when I'm not on time, it really shocks my world. And if I've forgotten something, it just I don't I think, what happened to all my systems and all my plans. So yeah,
So maybe we can drift a little bit away from Denmark and their planning system, which is also like very. I admire Danes for being so precise with their planning,
yeah, me too.
because I also learned a lot from this nation. And
Yeah,
being a Pole, I'm not like that at
at
all.
all. No. And it's good
No.
to just celebrate it, right? Because I think a lot of I learned later in life. I'm 32. I don't mind saying my age. I learned
Mhm.
later in my late 20s, early 30s, that that, making sure that you're really self-aware is so critical, because when you really know yourself and how you are in your day-to-day, in your personality, how you are to others, how you are to yourself, then you can really start to craft the life that you want and understand, do I like being that kind of person or not? So, yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful thought. But yes, we can drift away from the Danish world and maybe go to social media world and online marketing, because that also that part of our existence, I can say, can be we can be caught up there in many distractions. And how do you stay focused and yes, avoid time-wasting activities while promoting your work, or in general in your work as an interior architect as well?
hmm I think we do live in this digital age, right? And I definitely get caught up in distractions. I do go down a rabbit hole and research
Mm-hmm.
things and really get into it. But I think the best way is to. I think there's the being self-aware is really good and helps with that. But you need to, with the business. And my full-time job, you need to always come back to your why. Why are you doing this? Do you love it? Is it still your passion? Where does that fire come from within you, that for why you started working or having your business? So when I'm at my desk and I'm realizing, okay, I'm doing a task on the business that is maybe not that important for right now. I realize that it's because the first thing that happens is you do the task that's not important, right? Or you
Mm-hmm.
go down this time wasting, and then you come to a point where you realize, okay, maybe I don't need to be doing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that
Yes.
it starts like that. It goes up in that cycle. It's the realization, and then it's what do you do about that? And then you have to always come back to your why, and why am I doing this? Why am I sitting here today at my desk? Why did I carve
Mm-hmm.
out this time to work on this task? And I think that really helps with the distractions as well, because then I come back and think, well, oh, okay, I canceled seeing a friend, or I said no to hanging out with my partner, being with him, a meal, all these things that I really love to do. So then that quickly makes me go full circle and start again and focus again on the task. What else? Also, I have a really clean workstation. As soon as I need to work on the business, I have to make sure that it is spotless, because I get distracted when something is not clean. And I know that about myself very well. So every time I go to do a task, I prepare the whole workstation. It's
Mm-hmm.
clean. It's ready for me to start what I need to do. I've got my water, my coffee, everything I possibly need, and then I'm focused, and then I can go into it. So that those things help me not to get distracted either with social media or with other time wasting activities that maybe I need to be doing later,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not that critical for that point in time.
I was also wondering when you said about asking yourself why. I thought about maybe also choosing or some goals in your life. When you once you have goal, you know why you're doing something, uh, because you want to achieve something like you dream about or you want to achieve. So maybe that can also be very helpful during that process.
That's right.
That was
That's
just a.
I've actually
Mhm,
got that thought here as well, because I think when you
mhm,
come back to why you're doing it, it's usually connected to a goal. So,
mhm,
and the word goal is used very heavily
mhm.
in the organization world and in the time management world. But really,
Okay.
it just comes down to the task. Like, what did you set out to do? If it's a goal for now or a goal for the future, what is it? And that is a goal, really, if it's for the next 5 minutes or if it's for the next day or week or month. So I definitely agree. You have to, knowing your why is the goal is definitely one of those things. So sometimes it's also that you just have to do it, like admin or accounting, right? Yeah.
Or just cleaning your apartment, right?
Yes, exactly.
Some things has to be done.
They do, yeah.
And for example, now when we know why we're doing something, we have our goal and tasks
Yes.
chosen. Then, for example, when we have to go and design a product, all those little things can be time consuming. And how do you realistically schedule time for designing, for example, a product for the brown paper movement?
It's very similar to my work as well. You have to set out what is it that you're going to be doing first. That's the first thing. What do you want it to look like first, and what is the outcome of it? Then it's what does it look like? Because in both my interior design world and in the brown paper movement, it is very much aesthetic based. It's something we see, something we feel, something we interact with. So it starts out with the need and the what. Why and how, and then also the aesthetic. How does this look? How does it come to be? So once I have that, then I realize what is the timeline needed to achieve that. I work backwards. I love working backwards with so many things in life, and setting the goal for when I want it to be finished by or accomplished by. So for me, if it's one of my next products, a next paper product, I would say, okay, and I start with a really long-term goal, which is funny because some people say, "Oh, how quickly can you get it done?" Whereas for me, I like to take it slower and really enjoy that process. Also because I work full-time, I have to be realistic with these things. So if it's a new product, I might say, well, okay, a year from now, I aim to have that product on the market and selling. So that means, what does that mean? That means it's got to be online, it's got to be in a store. That coming back to that, then I have to approach wholesalers and do a price list. Then before that, I need to do photographs, have a real description for it, and then the printing is before that. And so it's really good to work back in that sort of chronological time frame. And then when I have that whole timeline mapped out, I usually map it out in my calendar, or I just jot down in my journal, each of those milestones. Then I can really look at all those tasks and estimate how long it will take to do each one. And then, I start to contact printers and figure out how long will that take. In the background, the designing also happens too. And you can't force the creative process. I'm sure all creatives will say that. So on the days I feel really good, in the days that I've blocked out time to do me. So if I had actually blocked out a day to just be at home, for instance, and maybe in my head I thought I would clean or just relax at home, then one of those days when I feel really good and at peace with how the rest of the house is, then I might sit down to do that creative task, or I will block out the day to just be creative. And then you could ask what inspires me to get to be creative, right? Because you can't just force that creativity too. It's multiple sources. I don't know about you, but I need to have all different types of sources to be creative, from different people in my life to different movies to I love to go to talks about food and culture and history, completely different to design. I love to go to I do Pilates every week, yoga and breathwork. Breathwork is a very popular topic at the minute in the health industry. And so I like to put myself on purpose in new situations that I'm not aware of. And I do that consciously because I want to be inspired by different outlets. And then I leave whatever event that is feeling super inspired and thinking, okay, what can I do now in my little world?
Yes. Yeah, I think this what you said, many parts of what inspires you also inspires me, like feeling also calm about myself and peace with everything surrounding me, no conflicts around me, it's me and I feel rested enough. Food is also a great inspiration, all the colors, flavors, smells, that's just wonderful. It's like endless a source of inspiration, I think. Yeah. Also
Absolutely.
working out, Pilates or
Yes.
also yoga, that's just wonderful. After working out, it's always a boost of creativity.
It is.
And
You feel the spike, right? Yeah.
exactly. It's, I think, dopamine, but
Yeah, it is. But it's
but
so good. It's good to just draw on
yeah.
that because I sometimes write down all my ideas when I have that hit, you know. It was usually right before a shower. I think, oh my goodness, I've got all these new ideas. I've got to write them all down. So, but yeah, I think also travel because I know COVID did a lot for the world in terms of limiting travel, but now we relocated to Australia almost 2 years ago after I was living in Denmark for 5 years and met my partner over there. Uh, for me, being so far away from the rest of Europe, initially I thought, well, there's not a lot of travel, and that's really wrong to say. There is so much to do around here. You just have to look in your backyard. And I think that is also a super source of inspiration. Locality is what it is, really. Just doing everything local. For us, we like to try to ride our bikes. So we bike instead of taking the car one day in our local area and discover new things. And that is a constant source of inspiration for me too. Putting a pin on the map and say, okay, let's just go there this weekend. Let's just see what that looks like. How can we get there that is actually a slower pace? Because that's what I also wanted to mention is pace. We often get caught up with, I think, driving around, and that was a big difference coming from Copenhagen back to Sydney, is always being in the car, being in a vehicle, versus being outside in the elements. And for me, to try to slow it down, I don't ride my bike into work. I'm still not feel comfortable on the road here yet because there's a lot of cars and a lot of other
is it
things.
a long is it a long journey from home to work?
It is. It's about 45 minutes or so, and Sydney's not flat. It's pretty hilly, so that factor comes in. But so I catch the light rail. It's like a tram, and that slows down my day. It really does, because I have this moment in the morning and after work where I've got to sit down and be in one space. And I either do one of two things. Either like I was mentioning before, I try to fill every minute of the day. So in that morning, I usually do all my life admin or business admin in the morning on the light rail. And I'm busy, and I'm not just checking Instagram. I'm just going at all of those things, making sure I do my reminders and plan out my day. And then some days my head is way too full, and I just need to take out the headphones and just be on the public transport and look at people, be very aware, see how people are caring about their day. Notice your surroundings as you're passing by the stops, and I think that helps me come right down and really slow down. That ego, I guess it's a little bit of ego too, I want to say, because that's I also that later that you have this thought of how you are, and how you perceive yourself in the world, and when you start to really realize other people around you and be more self-aware, understand people's different situations and your situation, then you really strike a balance, because you can just see everything else that happens in your life and the world around you and try to place yourself in that.
That was actually very much, I think, what I've learned from Danish culture also, to be present. Because while you're biking, you're just present.
Yes,
or
you're so right.
when you're with your friends, you're present. You very often put your phones on the side, and all the social media, or this is at least how that was my perception of all these meetings and living and observing the culture. But of course, it can look different from people to people, but in general,
I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, Olivia, maybe we can go deeper to your rituals and some daily routine topics, because you already mentioned about your yoga and dancing classes. So maybe you can go deeper and explain more about it. Yes.
Yeah, I love my rituals, and I think you really find yourself as you grow throughout this life that we're all trying to navigate, and find things that you really love. So the yoga, I can explain that a bit more. I've always been into fitness and into Pilates and yoga, but never ritualistically every single day. And during COVID, my partner and I were quite anxious. I'm sure a lot of people were trying to find solutions to fix that anxiety, or bring that anxiety down. And for us, it was yoga. We decided, after only a few days of working from home in the first lockdown, we decided that we would do yoga every morning. And I tried to find something short. My partner had never done yoga before. He plays a lot of football, and I thought this would be a really good way to help with the breath, bring the breath down, the heart rate down. We would wake up quite anxious, so we each purchased a yoga mat. We made sure I bought a beautiful one. I said to myself, I'm going to spend money and buy something that I really love, that I will have for a long time. My partner thought, okay, I would just buy a much cheaper one. But we did start doing the yoga. I will mention, I used the Sarah Elizabeth yoga on YouTube. She's fantastic. She has so many great videos. They're really short, from 5 minutes to much longer. And for me, that has been my lifesaver from when I started doing that more than 3 or 4 years ago now. And I had to really stick to it. I said to myself, well, if I do this every single day for 10 minutes in the morning before I start work or the rest of my day, it will really set me off into a balanced, emotionally balanced, and also physically balanced. It really stretches you out, yoga. And if you take the deep breaths during the stretches, you really feel a big difference in your body. And that is my favorite ritual, doing the yoga. Of course, I don't do it, um, you know, 100% of the year, 365 days, and I am human, and say to myself, if I need to sleep in on a weekend, or before I've committed myself to an activity on the weekend, it's okay to skip it. But Monday to Friday, I do it every single morning without fail. And sometimes I'm late to work because of it, because I know
Oh,
how
wow.
much of a difference. Yeah. I mean, I have maybe anyone watching from my work, but it really sets me off to a good start. And I know if I slept badly, I know where that ailment is in my body because I've stretched it out in yoga. So it's really fantastic. I highly recommend it. And if you're new to yoga, then start with the small increments. For me, also, I have to mention, it's not having my phone. So originally, to learn all the poses, now I've followed the same sequence actually for 3 or 4 years. But originally, I had it on the TV, and that was too much for me. The blue light in the morning, I hated that. So I ended up putting it on my phone, and then eventually I just turned it into an audio recording, so that I didn't have a screen to look at all when I woke up in the morning. And that has been the best, because I just play it and I calm down. I close my eyes, I breathe. Every other noise just disappears, and I'm just present in that moment. And that moment is mine. You own that moment. Yeah, I'm talking a lot about that, but it's so important to me, that yoga. Other rituals, I love to take a bath. For me, a bath, being in water, is very relaxing. So if it's a bath every week with a lot of magnesium salts, or if it's the right time of the year, we're at the beach and in the water, and I just like to float. That, and also saunas. I've been trying to do a lot more saunas in Sydney, actually, and
Oh.
just really open the pores in a sauna. So
Is it popular in Sydney?
it is popular. There is a really new trend to go to float therapy and sit in a salt bath where you're just floating like you're in
Wow.
the Dead Sea. I haven't tried that yet. That's on my list. But a sauna for 45 minutes, long time. I need a few breaks. I haven't managed to be in there for the whole time, but that has been amazing lately for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's also a little bit Scandinavian, right?
It is, it is, and I think you know we're we're all human beings in this life. We all have the same body structure. So we all have a heart, we all have lungs, we all need to learn to breathe. And for me, since the beginning of doing yoga in 2020, it's always come back to that. If when I get in the bathtub, sometimes you sit with your phone and you catch yourself. Oh my God, I'm on my phone so much. Well, I have to get out of that. So I do. I'm not perfect. I sit in the bath too and have my phone and I'm scrolling, and then I think, oh, my heartbeat is beating faster because
Yeah.
for some reason
Mm-hmm.
I'm reacting to whatever I'm seeing. If it's something exciting, or
Mm-hmm.
usually it's something exciting, it's some video on food, or some beautiful
Mm-hmm.
designs that I'm just completely enamored
Mm-hmm.
by. Then I have to really realize, it's the self-awareness I was talking about before. I have to be like, okay, well, maybe I'll put that away, and I would just be in the bathtub. I don't know. People might think that that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy that I have a phone in the bathtub, but I'm sure people do it. They just don't admit to it. So
It definitely needs to be waterproof,
that's it.
just in
That's
case.
it. So,
But does it all help you, all these rituals, help you to be a better designer?
um, I think I think they do at the end of the day, because I mean, what I was saying before about being on public transport and taking your headphones off. In design, you have to be really aware of your surroundings, of the world. In product design with my business, I have to be understanding products more. It's a different scale. I find that I could talk a long time about that. That I found super interesting. A really a small object, right, that you interact with, you can touch, you can pick up, you can open, you can smell, all the senses are completely ignited when you're with a small product, right? Your phone, food, body creams, all of those things are small scale. And I find that in comparison to interior architecture and design, where you're designing spaces to be in, spaces that you are
Mm-hmm.
in using those products. I find that whole idea super fascinating, and I do think that by being more aware about your surroundings, it does help you become a better designer because you just know what's out there more. And that's why, I mean, Instagram has been a really popular tool for me in terms of keeping up with trends and what's happening in the world. I use it. I have a few different accounts so I can trick the algorithm actually. So I have an account only for design. So I can,
Okay.
yeah, I really think it's the best thing. So
Oh my God.
this account is just a separate design account that I follow all the design studios that are really inspiring for me
Mm-hmm.
around the world. I have furniture brands on there that I'm inspired by, and
Mm-hmm.
fabrics or new technologies in specifically in design. Then the algorithm is
Mm-hmm.
only going to show me those new things, and that is a great
That's
tool.
smart.
Yeah, when I'm feeling really uninspired in my work, I go there and think, okay, this is only going to be that. It's nothing else. It's not food. It's not clothes. It's none of those other personal things. And I think being aware of those design trends and forcing myself to see that does help me become a better designer. But I've listened to so many podcasts in product designs and architects that talk about spatial surroundings and being inspired by your world, and travel is really important. Travel either locally or travel internationally,
Mm-hmm.
to understand how people use space, and just watching how do they interact with the
Oh.
object, and how do they interact with the space, how do they use the door handle, how do they turn on the light, what do they see when they come into a room for the first time. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really interesting, and something that everyone who works in design should be aware of. How are people using
Mm-hmm.
what you are designing?
Yes. Oh, that's actually really nice point.
Mm.
Because I'm mostly working with a very big objects, buildings. I
Yeah,
mean,
big buildings,
you're
yeah.
exactly. So it's even larger scale.
Mm.
I'm making a space for interior designers to play within, like,
Yeah.
and I would say more massaging the space and making it even more human friendly. But it's also like we also, as an architect, as an architect, I have to observe people and be aware how they use the building and how do they feel? How do they feel in larger scale or smaller scale? Or how smaller human beings feel in the, let's say, church or a big school, small school, or what kind of types of people prefer what kind of types of spaces. It's really, really fascinating.
And that's why it's so interesting to listen to lots of different architects, because really,
Mm-hmm.
we all have our own opinions. Everyone has their own bias, their own comforts, their own
Mm-hmm.
loves, their own pet hates, and and that's a lot about. It's got a lot to do with space and how space makes you
Mm-hmm.
feel. So I think in architecture, you very much work with form and the bigger picture. How people are going to
Mm-hmm.
be sheltered from the elements, what they see. You're controlling what they see a lot of the time. And I think in
Mm-hmm.
interior design and interior architecture, we control the mood and the atmosphere, because for me, interior design is everything to do with light. If you really don't understand light, then you cannot really do a really great interior. Of course, you can design something that's beautiful and has all the most gorgeous materials and visually pleasing. But if the light is not hitting the material correctly, it will not illuminate it properly. You'll miss certain things. And without, we need light to function unless you're designing a completely dark room. And if you're designing a dark room, then you're using light to make it look exciting. So
Mm-hmm.
architecture and light and interior and light is very interesting. And then if we bring it right down to the smaller scale, the really small objects, that is also super interesting, because it's not it's on a very individual level, right? When you walk into a door frame, everybody's going to walk through it in one
Mm-hmm.
particular way. A child might walk backwards or in a more fun way to it, but most people are
Mm-hmm.
just going to walk straight into it if we
Yes.
just be very basic with form, right? But if you take a notebook, someone might look at the spine first. They might look at the front or the back. They might feel something, like our notebooks are embossed, so they might feel that first, and then they turn it around to see what they felt. Someone might open it first, feel the paper. I think objects are so much more interesting in that way, because everybody has a completely different first experience with that object the first time, and then the second and third time, and when they own the product, then it's a more ritualistic experience of using it. But then
Mm-hmm.
in the first instance, it's got so much to do with touch versus architecture and design, where it's more
Mm-hmm.
about being in the form or being in the space.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You already mentioned about that you're tracking, you're following some specific offices on Instagram, and you
Yeah,
track and you crack their algorithms that
yeah,
they only or mostly recommend you some certain channels in your preferable
yes.
style. But how do you accept the Instagram, stay updated with the
Mm.
latest design trends?
I think for me, the Instagram is, it's a pretty big beast. I do think in the last
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 years, definitely the last 2 years, Instagram has evolved a lot. And I did actually lose track at one point as to all the new features. It was around the time that
Okay.
video content came in, right? And I hadn't been
Yes.
doing a lot of video content, whether it was my face or the
Mm-hmm.
product. And that's when I sort of lost it a little bit in terms of keeping the trend. But I had to really stop and, go and watch the highlights, go and watch the release videos, um, almost go to really basic outlets that everybody knows, to see and track and understand how they use Instagram. So that would mean, let's say, a really popular food outlet, or H&M or Zara, for instance, looking at how opening their, it's difficult, right? Because, these places I shop from as well. So, opening their page and analyzing how have they done everything? How often do they post? Because you can now upload,
Mm-hmm.
I think you can upload some accounts and onto platforms on the internet and figure out some statistics from those accounts. That's definitely public
Mm-hmm.
information. So
Mm-hmm.
so you can see that, look at how often they do videos. How is it a lot? Is it a little bit more infrequent? How much text do they write on the videos? For
Mm-hmm.
instance, if we're just talking about videos, what is in there? And then the timing of those things. You can really sit and analyze an account just by doing that and try to understand where the current play is of
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and the media world. TikTok is also something I don't have that. I think because
Mm-hmm.
for me it became a really fast trend, and I didn't want to jump on the fast trend train just yet. And maybe it is a hindrance. I don't know yet. I'm sure I will look back and think that I didn't jump on it fast enough. But it's because I think it's because I really like being a bit slower, and I do think that people will do a full circle, and come back to something that's more familiar, and that's because we came into this world, with a lot less technology than when we leave this world. Whatever age you are at, whatever age you are, sorry, you're going to leave in a much more technical world than when you came in. So you always come back to something that's a bit more familiar. So for me, I come back and think, well, at the end of the whole time when somebody's been online and really engaged in a video, at the end, they've just come back to being in their own spaces and being with their objects again, not really the screen, because we don't just live in the screen. So that's why I really didn't jump on that trend too quickly. But in terms of how do I keep abreast of all the other design trends in the world, I try to make sure that I go to vintage stores, for instance, and
Mm-hmm.
look at how new forms and it's not a new form, actually it's an old form and shape of a chair or a cabinet,
Mm-hmm.
materials. How did they use that? And then I said new because for me it's new to see that product for the first time,
Yeah.
even though it's something that's really old. So I think coming back to that slowness and embracing what people are more familiar with helps me keep on trend too, because people do come back to something that is more familiar to them. And that's why wood in design and leathers and natural materials people really love, because they really connect with and they interact with, because it comes from the natural world. So I do like to come back to using those materials and being, looking at objects that do use those materials. In terms of like AI, for instance, that's one. Yeah, I'm still navigating what that is.
I wanted to ask about AI, so
Yeah,
good you're bringing this
yeah, it's
topic.
crazy, right? I think, yeah, I don't think everybody knows what it is just yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I also don't want to become lazy, and get into this, yeah, this world or this program that just spits out information if you give it something. Um, I'm sort of resistant to even try using, for instance, like Chat GPT, because I know myself that when I've tried to, let's say, come up with a caption for a product or a description, I do find it sometimes difficult to write it. But if we go back to what we first said in this recording, is that coming back to your why and your goal, then you can really flesh out everything that you wanted to achieve in that particular product. And you don't really need a program to be spitting that back out to you, because then, yeah, I know you have to give it some input, but you're not really critically analyzing it yourself or coming up with it yourself. And there's
Mm-hmm.
something really nice, and you feel really proud when and authentic when you've come up with it. I think that will be an interesting topic going forward with AI, is this authenticity. And I haven't really seen people mention how human beings feel after they're not being authentic by using the AI. I'm curious
Oh,
to see
that's a great
what will happen.
question.
Yeah, I'm not sure what will happen. I do think that people might think that they are being authentic because they, have to give it some input. But at the same time, what comes out, the output, you have to
Mm-hmm.
critically assess it anyway. So, and you have to assess, is this authentic for me, or is this just what the program is doing? Or have I convinced myself that this is me now, whatever the
Yeah.
output is? I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think it's great in Photoshop. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic for some 3D stuff, as well. But in terms of just text, if I just look at text, it's for me
Mm-hmm.
still, yeah, I'm a bit too want to go back to the
Yeah.
paper and the tools.
Yes. Also, I thought about like maybe we should also accept our imperfections.
Yes.
That if I create a text and I'm not English native speaker, it will never be as perfect as probably text done by ChatGPT or other AI chat tools. And maybe it's still okay because it's me. And this is the way I talk. This is the way I write. And of course, I'm constantly improving, but maybe also this acceptance that, but I think it's also another topic we have to touch. It's like self-confidence. If you're
Right.
confident
Yeah.
enough to accept your imperfections, and I
That's
think it's
it.
another whole story.
That's it. It so is. And again, I think it just comes down to self-awareness. I've listened to quite a few podcasts and talks about being aware, and I
Mhm,
think the more aware you are, the better it is, because you can then become more confident. If you're comfortable with yourself, you become more confident in
mhm,
certain avenues, and I think accepting is fine. There's accepting, and then there's doing something about it after you've accepted it, right? So either making it better or keeping it the same. But it comes down to realizing in the first instance, oh, if I'm not happy with it, why? And what can I do about it? Do I just stick with it and then accept it? Or do I think, okay, I can try to gradually improve that, and eventually it will no longer be something that I just accept?
this is actually maybe very nice um, summary to our episode. But in the end, I would like to ask you the last question. Of course, I think it will be the best question to summarize our talk. What advice would you give to artists or entrepreneurs who struggle with time management
Mm.
and find it challenging to stay organized? Maybe that would be the more
A good
summary.
closer. Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Um, well, so I, coming back to your why, I think is the most important thing. Why did you set out to do this task? What do you want to achieve first? To really understand that in its totality, and then breaking it down into simple tasks is the best thing to do with time management. Because when you break it down into achievable tasks, when it's something really big like creating a new product, there's so many things involved in that. When you break it down into small things, and small milestones, then you feel great, because humans love little achievements, and
Mm-hmm.
when we're kids, we grow that way. We celebrate all the
Mm-hmm.
small milestones, and I think as adults we forget to celebrate these tiny milestones. For me, I said to myself when I started my business, that every time I celebrate something or achieve something, I would do something like there's a cause and effect from it. I would do something that makes me happy. So for me, every milestone, I would buy a punnet of raspberries, and I would just devour them. It's so simple, but I would just devour them, and I love them so much, and I would buy them even when they were at their most expensive and out of season. And that
Mm-hmm.
was one way that I celebrated the milestone, because I felt good after doing it, and it was like a little reward. And then over time, you do less of those rewards, because once you realize how quickly you can achieve those tasks, then you build it up to something a bit more exciting later on. And that might be that you've launched something and you offer a discount, for instance, and then you
Mm-hmm.
get a few more sales, and that gives you a little bit more of an encouragement. Or you take yourself out for a nice brunch. I think breaking it down into achievable tasks is great. Even with the yoga, I didn't start doing yoga for 10 minutes every single day. It didn't work out like that. I had to put it in my calendar, had to set a reminder. Some mornings I slept in and I missed it, and then I felt bad about myself. So I think it's about pace, and being okay that things take a little bit of time to get into a momentum. And then once you're in a good momentum, and you're used to setting the goal, a small goal even, or a task, and achieving it, and celebrating that achievement, then you go back to the
Mm-hmm.
full cycle again, of that time management, and try to really understand how you can do all of those things, because it is all achievable. We're amazing machines, the human beings. Us as human beings are amazing machines, and we can do incredible things in this world. And I think sometimes
Mhm.
people are just afraid to try because it seems really momentous. And I've also had those moments too, where it's just been, I really don't want to do it. I just,
Yeah.
something in me says this is not for me today. And then you just get disappointed that you didn't do it. So it's only on your on yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Olivia, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and valuable lessons with us today.
Oh, thank you. It
Your
was my
journey,
pleasure.
yeah, your journey and your work with the brown paper movement and work as an interior architect is truly inspiring. And thank you. You decided to be a guest today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's truly been great. I sometimes forget how nice it is to just step back and really reflect about what you do, and what's most
Yeah,
important to you. So yeah, thank you, Claudia, for having me.
thank you so much. How do you manage your time? Share your insights in the comments below. Thank you for being part of today's conversation. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast for more insightful discussions. Stay updated by connecting with me on Instagram and Facebook. Sending warm greetings from the Faroe Islands, Claudia Borowiec.